Hello, it's Jen from Scrapping Posh again, and this is my tutorial for the 4x4 mini album A. Now you will notice if you explore my channel a little bit that there is a tutorial up for this mini album already. However, I think it's like 8 half-hour parts or something like that. This is the condensed version, and hopefully you can hear it a little bit better and understand it a little bit better. This is a mini album that you can create with a cameo silhouette, or just doing it, I don't know, the regular way. And you see here I've made this template for the pages, and if you use this template you only need 8.5 by 11 pieces of cardstock, and you can see here how all the pieces fit on that piece of cardstock. I used my cameo silhouette. In that case you need 9 pieces of 8.5 by 11 cardstock. The silhouette file for this is up on my blog already under the free downloads section. It's www.scrappingposh.blogspot.com. So, having said that, this is the first page of a 4-page or a 4 different page mini album basically. But I enjoy making all the pages in a mini album the same every once in a while, and it's easy. So you can do this by itself, or you can do this with the other pages. So if we start, our base page is 8 by 3.5, as you can see on the yellow template there, and it is scored at a 1/2 inch and at 4¼ inches. And what that gives you is this little envelope, or this little sleeve, and I'm going to fold all of those up and then run some score tape along the top side there. And in this video I do speed some stuff up, so no worries, you won't get too horribly bored, I hope. You end up with a 4-inch page. I haven't done it yet, but I am going to post this yellow template on my blog also, and it doesn't show it here, but on the template itself I put the sizes for the mats, the photo mats, or basically not only the photo mats but all the pattern papers that you need to cut down. It's most enjoyable for me to be able to do things as quickly as possible. So I try and cut down all my pages at the same time, especially when I'm making. Okay, so this is the flat for the page A, and it is a 3.5 by 3.5 square with a 1/2 inch, or a score at 1/2 inch, and it is a horizontal flap, so it will go on the right side of the page opposite where the hinge slides into the page. So you can see how this process goes pretty quickly. These are my file folders, and those are just inserts. Basically, it's a 4¾ by 3/4 inch folder, and it could actually be a 5 by 3¼ if you don't include the tab. You can see that tab is a 1/4 inch long. And you just fold those in half, and then you'll mat both sides of those here later. But you can add any kind of insert that you want into this. It doesn't have to be this file folder. If you've watched my share video, you've seen that I did some folders and just put a circle punch on them for a tab. So there's many different ways to do that. This is the belly band. It measures 1 inch by 4.5 inches, and it is scored both sides at a 1/2 inch. And there's 8 of each of these, and you can see the way that I've set up the page designs is that one page fits on each sheet of cardstock. So if you haven't already checked out the cover tutorial, go ahead and do that. This is a small mini album. I'll just repeat this. Sorry for repetition, but the cover and spine take up a 12 by 12 piece of paper, and each page takes up 1 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock. So yeah, definitely go check that out so that so that you can have a completed project. I have 3 more tutorials coming for 3 different page designs, and they're all interchangeable. So you'll be able to use whatever page designs that you prefer on one album. I'm just double checking my counts, and I guess this is mostly in real time, so my apologies, but at least you get to see how fast or not fast I actually work. So this is the cover that I made in the last video that I posted, the tutorial. And you put score tape on each side of those hinges there. Okay, so I just went a little bit forward and made sure that I did edit this video. You will not have to watch me do this in real time the whole time. So I do recommend using score tape or the strongest adhesive that you have to put the pages on the hinges. It is very important to have a good hold. And this will essentially, this and binding the pages together is the last part of the score tape. I used about a 1/2 roll, 1/4 inch score tape per mini album. So score tape runs about what, $6-7, so you're talking about $3 to $4 in score tape, and you know, a few dollars in cardstock, and then $5 in pattern paper at the most. So this mini album's really under $10 to make. So now this is the base page, and this page is going to be the same in all 4 page designs. I add a piece of score tape to the top, and then I tuck, how do I say this? I tuck it under and adhere it down so that when you put your tags in it, it doesn't get caught on that edge. So the paper or the cardstock has a little bit of a bulge to it, I guess. But once you put it on that hinge, as long as you press in the middle first, it works out really well. So you can see what I'm talking about here. I put it on the inside of that flap and then close the page under it so that the flap is on the outside, I guess. And I do try and get the tape all the way to the edge. So I'm going to do this 8 times, and then I'm going to adhere the flap onto the right side of those card bases also with the score tape. The only thing you have to make sure with the card bases is, or with the flaps, is one, I always make sure that it's oriented the same way on the page. Like the base page has the overhang on the top, and I make sure that the overhang is always on the top, and the flap is adhered to the right hand side of that. So you'll see that consistently throughout the album. And it's not extremely noticeable because they are matted over. The pattern paper mats these things, but it's nice to have it that being consistent. So as you can see, I have the overhang at the top of that, and then the page is, or the flap is going to be on the right. And when I put my pages in, I always start on the back of the album so that I can layer them. And when I'm layering them, I can kind of line them up. If you get that page on there crooked, your pages don't line up evenly. So before I push down, I make sure that they are lined up. And there's one here that I did not push in the middle before I put the sides down, and because I do have that little bulk to that page, it created a crease. But I kind of worked it out a little bit, and with the pattern paper on there, you don't notice it. So yeah, always push in the middle first and then work your way out. And once I get comfortable doing it, you see I start doing one page at a time, and then once I get comfortable doing it, I start doing them in bulk. And there's that crease I was talking about. So, I glued one page together completely, and then I put it in the book, and then I did the second completely, and then I started gluing all the pages together, and then now I'm putting these last three in the book all at once. So you can see there it's nice even pages, and that's because I took the time to make sure that they went on straight. So now I'm using the Street Lace matte pack from DCWV, and essentially I just pulled out one of each pattern. And on my blog, I have the paper sizes wrote down. It's under free downloads, and it says mini album A page template. And it's that yellow piece of paper that I showed you earlier. And on that yellow piece of paper in pencil, I wrote the sizes for the mats. So what I did was I picked out 3 of my favorite papers, one for the front, one for the back, and one for the spine, and I cut them to size. The cover is supposed to be 3 7/8 by 4 1/4. I did not cut this long enough. I cut it 3 7/8 by 4, so I end up adding the ribbon to it later. The inside, so you want to cut 2 of those, my apologies. The spine is 3 7/8 by 2 1/8. And then the inside covers, you want 2 of, and they are 4 1/8 by 3 7/8. Okay, and I am trying my hardest in this video to show you the dimensions of these photo mats, but it's just easier for you to go over to the blog and get the free download. Just for your information, the downloads are on Google Docs, and you just go to, it says 4x4 mini album tutorial, and it'll say download here, and it's just a PDF, so there's no viruses or anything attached to it, I swear. Okay, so I showed you the PDF or the yellow copy there of the page map, and it had the mat sizes written on it in the pencil on the right hand side. That's what I was showing you. So what I'm doing right now is I'm counting out 16 pages for the, or 16 pattern papers for the base page. And the base pages measures 3 5/8 by 3 3/8. And only one fit per piece of matte, photo matte paper there, but we are going to use those big drops. So 16 pieces cut to 3 5/8 by 3 3/8, and that's just the front and the back of each one of those base pages. And the next thing I'm going to do are the flaps. I showed you again where I'm getting this information from, and the flap mats measure 3 1/2 by 2 7/8. And I will be able to get those basically right off of the drops or the unused portion of the base page mats, because they're already 2 7/8. So I'm just cutting an inch off and making them 3 1/2 by 2 7/8. So I think that's the best utilization of at least that piece of paper. So there are your base pages and your mats done. And when I do the 15 that I'm doing all at the same time, I'm going to cut all the mats out first. I probably won't show you guys that. I'll just show you me putting the mats onto the page. So these 3 by 2 1/4 mats are for the folders, and because these, I'm taking the other unused pieces from the first pages and cutting those up first, and then some other unused pieces that I had in there, and then from the cover and the spine. So they're only 2 1/4, so I'm trying to use up everything I have that's at least 2 1/4 long. Okay, and looks like I got all 16 of those. Now these are for the photo mats, and so I'm matting, I'm putting pattern paper, I'm matting the photo mats, and those pattern papers will measure 3 3/8 by 2 3/8, and you'll only need 8 of those if you're only matting the front of them, which that's what I'm doing. And I am trying to use every piece of paper that I can find. My assumption is that once I start doing this in bulk, that I'll figure out the best way to do it. And each page is going to be a little bit different. So I'm just finishing up those 3 3/8 by 2 3/8 mats. And the next thing that I'm going to do are these tags. And I could have cut these one by one on the silhouette to make the full tag covered, but I think it's better utilization of the paper, and it looks just as well if you only do the rectangle bottom. So for those tags, the size that I made them, 3 3/8 by 2 1/4 is the perfect size mat for those. But if you change your tag, if you make it by hand like I did the Zoo album one with just the diagonal, then maybe you'd like a little bit bigger of a mat for those. And you'll need 8 of those if you're only matting the front. Now, these strips here should be about 7 1/8 by 3 3/8, and there's also 8 of those. And you'll find that the 1 inch drop that you had, I keep saying drop, the 1 inch scrap that you have from the first cuts that you did will fit those perfectly. So again, this is one of the smallest pieces that you'll need, so I'm trying to use up all the small stuff that I have. And then the only thing left to cut out of scraps is a piece of, it should be 1 1/8 by 1 1/8 square for the little holder. But I found that I had a punch. It looks like a postage stamp, and it should be, I think it's a 1 by 1 punch, but it fits perfectly, and it is so much easier than trying to cut these little tiny pieces of paper, because mine were all crooked. None of them were square. So 8 of those little squares, and then we're done cutting. And I just take all this tiny scraps, I throw them out, I take the bigger scraps, I put them in an envelope and keep them with the paper pad. Okay, so now you are going to see me gluing or taping all this stuff together. And I don't really have much to say, except for the covers and the inside covers and the spine. I do put score tape around the outside and ATG tape on the inside, just like I did the cover, cardstock cover. And you can see here, this is where my cover, I cut a 1/4 inch short, so I'm going to use this matching ribbon and a piece of black satin ribbon from Stampin' Up, and just use score tape to adhere those down, wrap them around the inside, wrap them around to the inside of the album, so that the cover, the inside mats on the covers secure those down on the inside and cover them also. So besides that, everything's pretty straightforward. I'm going to put some music on for you guys, and I hope you enjoy this process. everybody. So, I hope you enjoyed that quick little process of putting these pages together. As you can see, the belly band goes on the back of each of the page. Just glue on each one of the bends there. And then as far as those placeholders go, I just put a strip of glue on the bottom and let them dry. Now that Scotch Quick Dry adhesive, it dries quick enough that by the time you are done putting adhesive on the next page, the page before is dry enough that you can push it to one side. Now I just glue these hole reinforcements onto the tags, and I'm still debating on whether to put ribbon through those tags or not. I have plenty of ribbon. I can't wait to get rid of it, so it's an internal debate that I'm having. I just put glue around the hole and then put the enforcers on there, and I usually have a wet paper towel or towel to the side in case I get glue outside of the area so that it's not shiny. So once those are on, I'm going to go ahead and mat everything else. And I just wanted to say that I probably won't get the rest of the tutorials up today, but I will try and get at least one of them up tomorrow, and then the remainder up by next weekend. The speed video of making the other ones may be a little bit longer because I have to put together 15 of these things, and even though everything's already cut out with the exception of the pattern paper, and which I'm in process of doing now, I still have to put all the pages together. So you're talking probably 30 hours maybe worth of stuff, but I should get faster the more I do. So I'll let you guys know how long it takes me to do like the last and the second to the last one, because it'll be an interesting process to see how much more efficient I get with my paper and my time, because I'm sure it will happen. So again, I think I mentioned this in the last video. I'm going to mention again, I am at 909 subscribers, and when I get to 1,000 subscribers, I will be having a giveaway. The intended giveaway is for some retired Graphic 45 stuff. I have several paper pads of retired Graphic 45. I just have to decide which one I'm getting rid of. So now I'm going to start assembling this, putting these tags in, and the fun part about the silhouette cut tags and or any kind of die cut tag that you may have is that those different shapes, that rounded shape at the top brings interest to this book. And again, I think I said it during the cover tutorial, but the reason why I made them the cover's 4 1/4 by 4 instead of 4 by 4 is specifically so that those tags don't stick out of the cover and get damaged. So as I said before, I know a lot of people were watching the Graphic 45 Master Detective Series mini album and the 221B Baker Street that I did the tutorials on, and a lot of people were just intimidated by that, and because it was a little harder than this, especially if you didn't have the cameo to cut it. So this is meant for someone who wants to make a lot of albums, or maybe an album for an acquaintance. It's not one of those labors of love that you try and, that you're working on for weeks at a time. This is fast, quick, pretty cheap, and it still has a great outcome. So that's why I like it, and I hope you guys like it too. I appreciate it if you would like this video and subscribe if you'd like to see more. Feel free to leave me a comment if you have any questions, comments, concerns, suggestions. Am I going too fast? Did I not show enough detail? Are my links working for the free downloads? Are they self-explanatory? Do I need to add anything? So please feel free to let me know that. And like I said, I appreciate it, and I will see you for the mini album 4x4 tutorial bee design. I thank you very much for watching.